Hello everybody, welcome to Savage Ink Studios. I'm your host Ink, and today's Sketchbook Storytime is our second Deadly Sins challenge thing. Today's deadly sin is envy. So the Google definition of envy is a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. So I think that some people mistake envy by that definition as seeing something that someone else wants and thinking, oh, I would like to have that too. But the definition of envy is actually having, like, ugly feelings towards someone else having something that you don't have. So I guess my personal envy stories, because I have suffered this deadly sin. I have, actually, and I'm totally willing to admit that. I think the most envious that I've been of anyone in my whole life is probably my mom and my sister. For those of you who are familiar with my channel, have watched my videos, you know that obviously my mom has children, my sister Ivy has children, and I want kids more than anything in the whole world. Like, I would give my left arm and one of my eyeballs if it would make something bake in this oven. I helped raise my mom's kids. I helped take care of my sister's son when he was very, very young. So I've been taking care of other people's children for most of my life, but I have always wanted a child of my own. Even when I was young and had every intention of getting a sex change when I turned 18, I wanted to be able to, like, have a wife or a girlfriend at that point in time, because gay marriage wasn't legal yet, who would hopefully have a child, because being a parent is the one thing that I've always known that I could do and that I would be good at, because I had essentially been doing it most of my life. So, and that's not just seeing something that someone else has and thinking, oh, I want that too. It got to the point where I really was genuinely resentful of both my mom and Ivy. My mom, because she was just really, she was a young, irresponsible, my mom kind of even now embodies a sort of young, irresponsible mother who is sort of resentful towards her children for stealing her childhood, if you will. To this day, my mom would rather go out bar hopping than doing family events, and it's just the truth. I mean, she's gotten to a point in her life now where at least she can admit, like, this probably isn't the life that she wanted. I mean, I don't think that she would say that in front of her boys, but it's something that she had said to Ivy growing up, and to me, that I essentially stole her childhood, which isn't really fair, because I didn't ask to be here. And then with Ivy, it was, you know, during her postpartum phase, in the intellectual part of my mind, I knew that it was a chemical imbalance and that she had no control over it. But on the emotional side of it, I was just super resentful that she had this beautiful, amazing creature that she created, and she didn't seem to have the energy or the desire to interact, you know. And that just, the resentment was so strong. And this isn't a secret, you know. Ivy watches my channel sometimes, and I've said this to her, I've said this to my mom, I've told them, you know, I've got really ugly feelings about, it's not fair that my mom ended up with 4 kids and Ivy ended up with 2. And I tried, and it's just, it doesn't, my oven's broken, it doesn't bake anything. So now that I'm, like, at a point in my life where I know I'm not going to get a sex change, not because I don't feel more masculine than feminine, because I do still feel more masculine than feminine, but because I spent a really long time, right before I turned 18, from 17 and then 6 years I spent in a relationship with someone who begged me not to. So I spent 6 years trying to adjust to being in this body and accepting it the way that it was, which I never did as a child, because as a child and a teenager, my assumption always was that once I turned 18, I wasn't going to have this body anymore. So I didn't take the time to uh, try to get used to living in it, because I just expected that it wouldn't be this way. So after spending 6 years trying to adjust to accepting the body that I was born in and just trying to be comfortable in it, I'm at a point now where I can consider myself sort of gender fluid. I've got boobs. That's my life. I'm just more of a guy than I am a girl, but physically this is my body, and that's just the way that it is. Which I guess leads into my next sort of envy thing. I don't know if this would fall under the definition necessarily, because I don't have ugly feelings towards my partner. They're just not good feelings in general. My boyfriend Jude, and I've told him this too. He does not watch my channel, but I've told him this too, that I am just so jealous of the body that he has. Now, he's a little, like, self-conscious and doesn't like the way that he looks, but as I've mentioned in one of my previous videos, he is tall, he is muscled, and he has a cock, which is, like, treasured to me. You have no idea what I've been through my entire life. The whole dysmorphia thing, of course, like, boobs are uncomfortable to have on you, especially when they're on the larger size, but my problems with my body, my distaste for my body, was always less about what I had and more about what I didn't have. My mom, trying to be supportive of me being trans growing up, bought me a Shiwi, and I cannot, that's like the little cup thing that you stick down there so that girls can pee standing up, and it didn't matter that this thing was messy and didn't particularly work well. I was so thrilled just to have it, just to, like, for a second to be able to think that maybe, to be able to trick my brain into being like, this could be my life, because the epitome of a good life is being able to pee standing up, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. So, my envy, I guess, for Jude is I don't feel ugly towards him because I wish I had his body, but it's just an ugly feeling in general, the fact that he has no freaking idea how lucky he is in my mind, because the body that he has is the body that I wanted to be born into, you know, that just, he's got all this obvious masculinity, and I am so envious of it, you know. Growing up, when I pictured what I wanted to look like when I grew up, I essentially envisioned this guy that I'm with now, and that was the body that I wanted for myself. And granted, that was never going to happen because I'm 4'11", and he is significantly taller than me, and, you know, even if I got a sex change, they weren't going to stick me on a stretcher and pull me out. I'm also really stockily built, which, in a female body, I like being heavier because it just sits better on me. It looks better than skinny female me. But were I a guy who I would want his body. As a female body, I'm good with being fat, but if I were a guy, I would want that tall, muscled figure that he has, and it really is like an envy thing. I think I kind of get resentful, not necessarily in an envious kind of way, but a little bit of, like, people who had, like, functional families growing up, I guess. When people talk about, you know, how their mom and dad are still together and they, you know, had a lot of money and were offered these opportunities to, like, live normal lives, I guess. I've been known to get a little bit resentful, I guess, of that thing that I can't even imagine in my mind at this point, because my parents split up when I was about 3, which is for the best. I mean, they wouldn't have been happy together, so I get it. But, again, if you're familiar with my other videos, you know both households were really, really abusive in different ways, and I can't even wrap my head around the concept of what it would have been like to grow up in a home where it wasn't just completely toxic in one way or another. So, I almost feel like with envy, though, in an extreme case of envy, it's something that you would want to take from someone else to have for yourself, and I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that in any of those scenarios. You know, they're just things that I would also want for myself, and am a little bit resentful of people who have it, not because I want to take it from them, but just because life's not fair, you know? I mean, I heard from a very, very young age, you know, when I'm like, but it's not fair. Every adult in my life is like, well, life's not fair. So, from a very, very young age, it was beaten into my head that life's not fair. So, I don't take it personally. Life just, you know, sucks sometimes. It's like that for everybody, I think. And I can't even say, there was a point in time where I was really envious of people who had a lot of money and like grew up with a lot of money and never had to struggle financially, but I no longer feel that way, because at this point in my life, I'm genuinely appreciative of everything that I have, and I think that that's because I have experienced what it's like to be really, really poor. I've been homeless, I've eaten out of trash cans, I've slept on picnic tables in the pouring rain. So I think that being poor and not just having life's opportunities handed to me has given me like a genuine appreciation for, like, I've got an apartment the size of a shoebox that we're paying a lot of money for, probably more than it's worth. Jude's always complaining about like the parking and how our driveway isn't big enough and whatever, but I'm genuinely appreciative of the fact that we have an apartment and that we have a driveway and that we have a car. So I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't grow up kind of like rich and privileged, and I'm glad that I was essentially taught from a really young age that I needed to work for anything that I wanted, because here I am as an adult with a good work ethic and don't expect anyone to hand anything to me, and I'm happy and appreciative of the things that I can afford with what I work for. So, I hope you guys enjoyed my digital speed paint sketch of this topic. I hope you enjoyed my stories. If any of y'all can relate or want to, you know, comment your own envy stories, situations, you can put that down in the comments section below with any requests or questions. Like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you guys in the next one.